Because like bathrooms, a library, or some say library, had become an essential ornament in the house of the rich and famous. Now, if you were not rich and famous and you had that library there, whether you could read the book or not, you were considered something special.
All right.
Now, even today, this is done. You see it in the sophisticated offices. You go there, it's all nice, white stuff, all the cushions are white, everything looks good, and you see books. Maybe they've never opened a book, but you see books. So much so, one time I was on Newsmaker Live, can't remember why, and the set was nicely decorated, and I turned to the back, and there were 3 books stacked up nicely, just some artistic kind of way. And I said, oh wow, so I went, and I tried touching it. It was cardboard, some kind of thing inside of it. So up to today, people still use books to make things look sophisticated. So that should tell you something about books. Many people do not realize the power that lies in a book. Kofi Annan, I'm sure most of you have heard about Kofi Annan. He said that literacy is the bridge from ruin to hope. Now I'm going to narrow that in a little bit more and say a book is the bridge from ruin to hope. Someone else, whom I don't know, said that whenever you read a book, somewhere in the world, a door opens to allow light in. A book is a dream that you hold in your hand. Neil Gaiman said that. Books change lives. Books can teach us limitless possibilities. Books help us find answers. And when I saw that books help us find answers, my mind went directly to the Bible. It's a book, and it helps us find answers. Books give us access to great leaders. Most of us would never have the opportunity to meet somebody, let's say, Nelson Mandela. However, if you pick up some of his memoirs, then it would, through reading the book, you would feel that you have met this man. And maybe from the book, you would be able to get more information than possibly to have a discussion with him or conversation with him. So books do that. Books help us to build a better future. This is the power of the written word. My question to you now is, and be honest, how many of you have read a non-fiction book since leaving school? Non-fiction, not a novel or anything like that. A non-fiction book since leaving school. How many of you have done so? Okay, we have a few hands. A few hands. Non-fiction. Okay? Just a few hands. Unfortunately, however, I hate to bring it to you, but one of the secrets of developing yourself is that whatever answer to a problem that you are looking for, it is somewhere in a book. It doesn't matter what problem you have. Your eyes are hurting, you have cataract, you want to know what to do? Get a book. It's somewhere. You want to try to design your bathroom and you don't have an artistic bone in you? Read a book. If you want to know how to cook, it's in a book somewhere. So, again, the importance, the value of a book. If you're willing to track down the book, then you can learn anything from books. A book, especially a non-fiction book, exists to take the singular, contained set of wisdom or ideas out of the head of the author and share it with the reader. So plainly put, a book is a medium of transfer of knowledge, wisdom, or ideas, and that is the purpose of a book. Now, I said all of this to say, keeping all of this in mind, let us turn our attention to what?
Unclean.
To unclean. Thank you very much. The reason for our celebration today, now I personally am very excited. because I can actually say I know the author. Number one. Number two, after having read the book, the content of the book, it's so thought-provoking, makes me, I feel this sense of, wow, it's ownership because, number one, I know this individual, and the work that is put into first writing and then publishing a book. I mean, it looks nice right now, but a lot had to go into it. A lot of sleepless nights, money, just other person's time. A lot went into it. And so we who are here, I know that we appreciate it, but bearing all of this in mind, your heart should be filled with gratitude for this book today. So, Aviator, this book takes the wisdom that Dr. Morian had in that head of his. He has gathered this wisdom over the many years of his existence through the amalgamation of theory that we know he has a lot of, experience that we know he has gone through, whether this experience is vicarious through other people or personal experience, and I am certain, based on what I've read, divine revelation.
Right.
So these three concepts, these three thoughts, ideas, and then he distilled it into manageable chunks. I'm telling them what to do. He distilled it into manageable chunks for interested readers like ourselves and others who are going to have the pleasure of reading this book. These manageable chunks present ideas on why people turn away from each other so easily. That made me pause. Because I am one who, I don't want trouble. Like, if you give me too much trouble, I shall turn away. And so it made me think. And as I go on, you'll understand why. Ideas on the origin of relationship malfunction. Again, it's not something that I had thought about. You go through it, but you don't think about it. Ideas on the pain and sense of loss that follow in the wake of relational abandonment, as put by Dr. Lionel Matthews. And then, the presentation of the ultimate solution to unclaimed, and that is relationship centered in Christ. This is what I pulled out from the book. All of this wealth is something that can fit into the palm of my medium-sized hand. All of this information can fit in your electronic library, on your phone, on your Kindle, on your tablet. You don't even have to go to the library to look for it. I urge every individual to read this book. As long as you have been, you are in, or you are about to enter a relationship with another human being, or if you fall in any of the following categories: mother, father, sister, brother, friend, family member, neighbor, this book is a must-read. A subject which I often thought about, particularly as I ascend in age, as my relationships seem to diminish. Even after some relationships I feel, well, okay, maybe you should sever that relationship. I think about, am I causing someone, after having read the book, I didn't think about that before. I just thought some people can come into your life for a season and reason all like that. Now, if the season is over, oops, you go. But, after reading the book, now I'm wondering, have I caused someone to be unclean based on my actions? And then, how do I remediate that? Anyway, we will look at that a little bit later. When you look at St. Lucia today, the symptoms or effects of unclean, and I'm using that in inverted commas, it doesn't really sound right for the English. When you look at the effects of unclean, it's taking St. Lucia by storm. And I'm sure all of you here, you would have read the book and so you know what I'm talking about. The prevalence is more, to me, on a pandemic scale. everywhere you turn in St. Lucia. If you read the book, you realize there are individuals who have that, what is the word? You can see symptoms or characteristics of being unclean in them or in us, because I think a lot of us have it. You enter the schools, the boys' training center, the prisons, the blocks, the hospitals, the wellness center. It reeks of unclean. Even in our families, you see it. As I was moved by the author's personal account of his father's abandonment as a child. An all too familiar scenario in our fair Helen. Yeah. And the feelings that it stirred up within him, I believe that more attention should be given to this detail. And like I said, it's there. It was there. We knew it. But the book brings it to the fore. And it causes you to pause and think. And then to wonder, okay, so what are we doing about it? Particularly as a church. Or let me say as Christians. I believe that more attention should be given, and I said that, instead of trying to deal with the results of this abandonment later down the road, when the victims have become more rooted in their misguided, compensatory behaviors. I would strongly encourage fathers especially to take time to read this book, as it highlights the long-lasting deleterious effects that a father's detachment can have on his child. And sometimes you see on the boy child especially, as they know. The girl child is equally important, because a father is supposed to show a daughter what a real man his behavior is supposed to be like. And so not having a man or the father in the picture, this girl does not know what it is that she's looking for. And of course, we know with the boy that he is supposed to be that example, that role model. On the flip side, and equally important, is how do we bridge the gap and fill in the void left in the wake of relational abandonment for the children and for the young people on this island. The awareness created by this book on relational abandonment forces us now to understand the dire need for us to act as emotional and relational surrogates to the unclaimed of this nation. And it really hit me, I'm saying that, and I realized, well, Wendy, are you acting or taking the position of a relational or an emotional surrogate in somebody's life, in the life of an unclaimed person? And I'm like, I don't think so. So there is work to be done. But again, like I said, these thoughts would not have surfaced had I not read the book. The power of the book. I stressed on the fathers earlier because it struck a chord in me personally. However, this book it speaks to every one of us. On a more personal note, Unclaimed forced me to see that that relational abandonment comes in many forms. That it is easy for me to become unclaimed. My husband didn't cause me to become unclaimed. Hint. Just as it is easy for me to cause somebody else to be unclean or to have feelings, these kinds of feelings of abandonment. My takeaway here in this book is that, look, people everywhere are suffering. I need to be sensitive to the loud cries of the unclean, but more so, the silent tormenting of the unclean. There are some individuals who suffer in silence. And they may look good on the outside, but then on the inside and on their pillow, it's a completely different story. After reading the book, I think we, in here, it starts with us, should be more sensitive to the cries of individuals that we may have a hint, or if not just in conversation, derive that this person may be suffering some kind of relational abandonment. The ones who wear the masks skillfully, that I need to slow down and walk alongside the unclaimed and to help restore their faith in relationships, ultimately pointing them to the relationship healer and the broken heart mender, which is Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, this book, again, I can't say it enough, is a must-read if you have ever been a victim or a perpetrator of unclaimed. This book is for you, meaning this book is for all of us, because I'm sure that in some way, shape, or fashion, we have been either a victim or the perpetrator. As I close my remarks, I just want to wish Dr. Pastor Morian well, and of course, to challenge him to continue the unclaimed sequel. I am waiting with bated breath to read. We salute you for your tenacity. I am fully aware of what it takes, what is involved in publication. It is a mammoth undertaking. And so from the bottom of my heart, I salute you, I applaud you, and I say congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. That was an eye-opener. Agreed? Yeah. You got so much from saying so little. And I'm pretty sure at this time you just want us to move now to the purchasing and signing of the book. Am I right? But we'll let it take its course. Now, a few things that Mrs. Joseph, said in her presentation really stood out to me. And the first thing is that books equate to power. And some of us, like she said, really underestimate the power of the books that we read, of the things that we read. And I would just like to highlight a few of her quotes. A book is a bridge from ruin to hope. It is a dream that you hold in your hand. And this one really struck out because this is literally a dream that I'm holding in my hand. This is a dream of Pastor Dr. Dolston Morian, and I know it has been a long time coming, but you know this is his dream, and he's seeing it, we're seeing it, experiencing it now. And this dream that he has is helping us to find the answers, to solve a problem that, like Mrs. Joseph said, is prevalent in the world, in our society today. And finally, this book, this dream, seeks to propel us into action. I'm just borrowing the words of Mrs. Joseph and reconstructing it. Like she said, this is what a book is supposed to do, right? So this book seeks to propel us into action and to help us to claim the unclaimed. It is telling us, well, it raises the awareness that, of course, like I said, this is an issue. And with the wisdom that we now have, even if in our capacity we cannot do much, raising an awareness is a big thing. Just like lighting a candle in a dark place, the whole place is alight. And everybody is drawn to it. So thank you again, Pastor Morian, and a great congratulations to you on this book, and may this be the first of your library. All right? Thank you. To move us further along, we'd like to call on the talented Mr. Ezra Alpha as he does for us a musical piece. Let's welcome him. I would love to request an encore, but I'm not sure if I have that liberty. But thank you very much, Mr. Arthur, for this wonderful rendition. The saxophone is actually my favorite instrument. I just love the way that it sounds, the way that it flows. I just love everything about it. And like I said earlier, since I'm not musically inclined, I choose to be inclined to listen to music. So once again, thank you, Mr. Arthur. Now, of course, you may realize that you have the program that we are moving right along, but I know that you're feeling good, you're not rushed for time. Am I right? Okay. All right, so in preparing for this day, I had to, like I said, do a little background check to make sure that my term is only on point and everything. And at this point, we're supposed to be having peer reviews. And of course, I triggered my own previous knowledge of it. And I still research so that I can give you credible information. And the definition of a peer review is an evaluation of scientific, academic, or professional work by others working in the same field. Right? Now, I'd like to highlight 3 words: scientific, academic, professional. So it means that this information is from a credible source. And in creating, well, in writing this book, Pastor Morian, of course, had to engage in a peer review. So we know that this book is scientific, academic, and professional, a credible source. And in keeping with the theme that I mentioned earlier, they say, I say. So what I say is based on what they said. We'd like to invite 5 individuals, and I'm not sure if all of them are there. There's one that I don't see. Okay, 4 of them are there. And they're going to conduct a peer review based on the peer reviews that we have in this book. So they say, I see. Okay? And these individuals, I will call them and they will indicate themselves. The first one is Mrs. Marie Monrose, who is the former Accountant General of the Government of St. Lucia. Is she here? Yes, she is. Second, this guest is not here. So after that, we have Mr. Dr. Robert Lewis, the former Minister of Education. We also have Pastor Dr. Caius Alfred, who is the Family Life Director of the St. Lucia Mission. Pastor Alfred. And finally, we have Mrs. Madonna Torrenville, former school principal, my principal. And she, of course, is our final presenter in this section. So we're going to give them the time to come up as they have been called to do their parts. Let's welcome
Protocol having been established, good day. This is a personal review on the book on claim written by Dr. Dolston Morian. What a documentary. As I read through Dr. Morian's personal account of being unclaimed, it took me to a different realm. The author provided a rich account of life back in Guyana and allowed the reader's mind to travel back in time to peer into his formative years. Nothing really prepared me for the anguish I felt as I looked into the eyes of this young lad, and yet I could not extend my arms to comfort him. As I slowly flipped through the pages of the book, I found myself engrossed in the story of young Morian's early childhood experience of abundant things by no other than his father. I believe that many can identify with. As a child growing up without his daddy, he missed the opportunity to have one whom he could have looked upon for guidance and direction, to provide a sense of belonging, and one in whose arms he felt the warm embrace of one he truly loved. I had an overcoming desire to continue reading this book because I found the author to be very candid, in bringing out factors that can impede the proper development of a young person, in particular a young man, if not well nurtured. The revelation of his troubled past, which I must admit caused me to become emotional sometimes, gave me a compelling reason to mentally scan my immediate environment for persons who may be going through a similar experience. Not only did the author provide a straightforward account of his experience of abandonment, in the second chapter of the book, he brought a different perspective to the meaning of unclean, along a spectrum which can occur at any time in one's life, and the negative outcome that can result if not well managed. Chapter 3 introduces a theological perspective. I found it fascinating the way that the author presents a one-flesh experience between God and man, and a copy of our God resides in us. This suggests that the feeling of abandonment should not exist. The author did an amazing job of presenting how the fall of our first parents alienated themselves from God and how it impacted the relationship to each other. The feeling of betrayal. Notwithstanding sin, that fall, and the brokenness felt by our first parents, the author reminded his readers that through the coming of Christ, that relationship is restored. It is a beautiful narration of how our relationship with one another, whether for companionship or intimacy, is restored because of our relationship with God. What more can we ask? The ensuing chapters are intriguing and packed with emotion. Dr. Morian drew reference to some Bible characters who themselves were not devoid of relational abandonment. The author perfectly captures the bitterness that Cain harbored against his brother Abel, a relational distress that cascaded from the erring parents. Rather than seeing one who's consumed with grief and perhaps regret because of the loss of a brother at his own hand, he was instead cold and calculated. The dysfunctional family of Jacob and the roller coaster events that shaped the social and spiritual well-being of his sons, and the ultimate rejection felt by Joseph when he was sold into captivity, were some of the sabbaths that propelled me to reform. I wanted this thing. As the narrative of Joseph unfolds, it brought to bear the light of Christ, his rejection and abandonment by his very own. The author use of the many Bible characters seems to project to his readers that bitterness and the feeling of betrayal, emptiness, despair are not new phenomena. It happened with our first parents and has cascaded to the human race. But there is hope on the horizon. In spite of the melancholy that I felt sometimes as I read through the events, I must say I thoroughly enjoyed reading them. It's not only a book about the experience of being abandoned, rejected, living in despair, but the assurance given that there is hope. I will give this masterpiece a 4.5 stars. Not because it's not deserved of a 5 star, but because of the bitterness I felt by the indifference demonstrated by some of the characters that inflict pain and suffering on those victims of abandonment. Of course, from the fault of Dr. Morian. I believe this book should be on every shelf, and it will be a perfect gift for persons.
Transport and Civil Aviation, Joseph, the Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Benjamin Manuel, Ministers of Religion, Pastor Dr. Alfred, Pastor Lemumet, Pastor Vitalis, maybe I can see it. You know, I'm impressed. Pastor Vitalis, sometimes I try to say Nick, because he's my student, and I have to say Pastor. Pastor Vitalis. But I think he understands you. Just now I called him and I said, Nick. It sounded like 20 years ago, Nick. So I felt sorry that I was not addressing him properly. But of course, Pastor Dr. Morian, Mistress Morian, and Sister Rosemary Jizzy, the Secretary Treasurer of the Mission of Seventh-day Adventists in St. You know, I sat there and I was listening to Dr. J to begin with. You know, I've been to many book launches, and even in this very room, I think sometime in July or August, an extraordinary book launch. And I thought, wow, the Seventh-day Adventist Church has arrived at the point where, of course, the Adventist Church is the second largest system, religious system with schools in the world. It's not that we didn't expect it to happen, but the point is in St. Lucia, when you have a book launch where you can sit with people who are properly dressed and listening to Dr. Bailey give a very good account of why books are important. I thought that was very key to see St. Lucia had arrived at the point where many of you will be having book launches in the future. So, Dr. Morian, thank you for starting it off. I want to indulge your, I didn't see, ladies and gentlemen, all of you, welcome. I want to indulge you because my printer went bad, and I thought, well, the easiest way to technology was send an email to yourself and read the email. So now we can do things differently. Life is about relationships. Our entire being revolves around relationships. To the Creator, our Maker, to our fellow human beings, to the environment, in fact, to everything that was created. Some relationships are more critical than others. Without some relationships, our existence would be problematic, or we just fail to exist. The human soul longs for relationship. And the most essential of these relationships is the relationship between the Creator and the creature. St. Augustine of Hippo puts it succinctly, and I quote, "Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds itself in thee." That's coming from his book, Confessions. This condition of the relentless search for meaningful parental familial relationship is precisely what Pastor Dr. Dolston Morian explores in his book on clay. Dr. Morian, in wanting us to better understand his relationship with his Creator, his parents, his siblings, his other acquaintances, takes us on a journey of some of his childhood and young adulthood experiences and encounters that have shaped his life and the relationships forged out of those experiences and encounters. Dr. Morian has chosen to share with us through the written word, and he spares no effort in his attempt to explain in words. Moreover, I should say that the words, whether spoken or written, tell stories and histories. Appropriate, colorful, well-weaved, elegant words tell more beautiful and effective stories and compelling histories. Pastor Dr. Morian is an eloquent and effective storyteller and a captivating historian in his own rights. He uses words effectively to tell any story. Anyone who has been had the privilege to be a congregant at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, where Dr. Morian has preached, a participant in a seminar where he's the facilitator, or if he's just making a contribution, one cannot miss the opportunity of observing that he chooses his words very deliberately and effortlessly to bring across his message to the waiting listeners. I have listened to and read the story of Joseph as recounted in the book of Genesis several times. I have always gone away from the text that Joseph was a victim of petty jealousies, unsolved family tensions, and unfair practices and actions on him by his siblings. I have been reassured in the Genesis text that Joseph has the undying love of his father. In fact, Joseph is a child of choice. He was wanted by both his parents. Everybody knows how much Richard wanted the child. Joseph, after all, is a child of choice, as I said. A child of love. He was a child both parents wanted. However, in Unclaimed, Dr. Morian dissects and analyzes the Joseph story to show with compelling proof that Joseph, although he had his father's love, still felt unclaimed and longed for the acceptance and recognition from his brothers, and he wanted their love. In that critic of Joseph's story, or the Joseph narrative, as Dr. Morian puts it, we are retold by Dr. Morian in Unclaimed, we come to see story and appreciate again the same message delivered by St. Augustine, that we are relentless and we are unquiet until we find our souls in God. And Joseph, if you look, Joseph really, he knew God was there with him, but he had to first establish that quiet and acceptance of his brothers for him to be totally subsumed in his rest with God. And I think you've done a wonderful job of that. I never saw that he was looking for attention, but he was, although he had his father's love. Using Dr. Morian's Unclaimed, each of us can identify ourselves as such, unclaimed. We inherently know and feel that something is amiss and our heart is unquiet and it rests only until it rests only in God. I have known Pastor Dr. Morian for at least 20 years. I have listened to him in different fora, in church, on countless radio programs, in seminars, and in personal conversations. I have always remarked to him during our personal conversations that some of his work, especially his work in family life matters, need to be chronicled and used for academic purposes. Hence, I was thrilled to hear a few months ago somebody in the church referred to him as Dr. Morian. Of course, I was not surprised because I felt I had assessed on several occasions the potential of his work for doctoral studies. And in Unclaimed, he proves the depths, the rigor, and quality of his scholarship. You know, even in the book, I don't know, I think I've been told that Dr. Colwick Wilson is your cousin, because I think I had discussions with Dr. Wilson. And both Dr. Wilson and the Secretary of the Union, Mr. Amaran Williams, they both see Dr. Morian's work as one that allows some of us, and all of us, to be able to look at the work and to find answers to the questions that we have. And that goes right back to what Dr. Bailey says, that if you want to know something, it's already in a book. And so what Dr. Morian has done for us, he has put some of his experiences, and he's captured it well by saying to us, if you're looking for some solution to some of the familiar relational problems you have, see if you can glean it from what I've written. And I think what he's done well in particular is use the Bible to show us that from the fall of man, there has always been issues on relationships, and we should realize that the only one who's going to solve these relationships for us is Jesus Christ. So I want to commend Dr. Morian, and I haven't had to see that before. I am not even sure, I was telling Dr. Billy as I sat there, because I think for his humility, he never told me about what he wrote his doctoral thesis on, but I suspect his doctoral work had something to do with family matters. When I read through the book, I saw a lot of references, and scholarly people like to reference material because the world will ask you, where did you get this? And so I want to, again, congratulate him for putting together this work. And at that end, I want to say that as I think it's Ms. Popo who says, and I think Dr. Bailey says, you can see that you can take this work in many directions because there's so much, so many different tangents. And the word tangent, as I want to say that, is a good mathematics word. Because tangent really means this line that gives you the rate of exchange, the rate of change. You can go in several directions with this work. So we look forward, Pastor Morian, Dr. Morian, to read more of your work. And as I was trying to play with these two words, Doctor or Pastor, I was looking in the program and I saw Mr. Dr. Robert Lewis. And the only place I know these two things happen really is when somebody is a doctor, a medical doctor. If he becomes a member of a royal society, he is no longer called doctor. He has moved from doctor to Mr. Now, I am not a medical doctor. Therefore, I was surprised to see Mr. in front of my head. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm certainly going to adopt that protocol, and that's already been established. And to say I'm grateful to be able to join the number of luminaries here who have just commented on what I consider to be a watershed book on not just relational abandonment, but a broader to relational dismissiveness. I think it's a little bit broader than the emotional abandonment. Let me say how happy I am to speak after these luminaries, because a number of things I can just say they have said most of what I've said. But there could be another painful part, and that is I can say that they have spoiled my script. And therefore I will just speak out of my heart. And forget the written part of it. I think you can always read it in the book at some point in time. Let me just say to begin with that my evaluation of Unclaimed is that it is a very creative and very insightful, and I must also say very compelling piece of documentary. It is one thing to read about the effect of adverse childhood events and the impact, the painful impact that it can have on relationships. It's one thing to read about it. You hear a lot of things. You hear about the problem of fatherlessness. You hear of what can happen when children grow up in unstable families. You hear. But to have somebody who have experienced it and who is also at depth with the issues that he's talking about. You are having a set of information that is coming to you with depth, with insight. And in my mind, he has brought to the dialogue on family something that, in fact, he has entered the conversation and made a contribution where many of us were ignorant of. And it hits you personally. And as Sister, you see, that's why it's good to have them speaking before you. And as Sister Monroe said, reading the book, you read it with emotions. It conjures all kinds of emotions in you. And you begin to ask yourself some big questions, or some profound questions. You have to even find out whether you have already defined yourself, or have you already found yourself even before. You know, a lot of things happen to you. You're doing some kind of scanning of your own life. And you're asking yourself if you have already dealt with your issues. Have you already dealt with your issues? And are you equipped to help others? So a lot of things have happened. So in a sense, not only I speak point, but I had to take some time to even do some introspection to make sure that I have already grounded my foot before I start commenting. Here's what I find very insightful, and I'm saying that he has brought to the conversation that maybe many of us never thought about. Maybe for once, I never thought that emotional dismissiveness or relational dismissiveness was so pervasive, and how it has touched or it has impacted almost every aspect of a person's relationship. I still just believe that this belongs to the truant boys. Girls are not sure. Because those individuals who are engaged in violence, you tell yourself, well, this is the outcome of fatherlessness and emotional dismissiveness. But as you look at the work that is coming out here, the wisdom that is being shared, you ask, who has not been touched? Who really has not been touched? This thing is not just about the vagrant. It's not about those persons who are violent in society. It's something that happens to all of us. Even when there is not a relational dismissiveness from your primary caregivers, you can also experience dismissiveness by what people say to you. Insensitive. Maybe not insensitive persons who say insensitive things. Because God want me to make a distinction between the behavior and the person. So I want to be correct, not necessarily politically correct, but socially correct. Yeah, so that's what happens to you. So in a sense, all of us are in touch. So what we once thought were, well, the issues that we thought once belonged to the social misfit, we have to rethink again and realize that it happens to all of us. And that we need to be very, very sensitive about what we say, be very concerned about what we say, and we need to be very guarded in how we treat people. I think this came through here, and it's a wisdom perhaps that we should not treat very lightly. The second thing I want to just mention here is the issue of reflective learning. It's one thing to, read about what other people have to say. But there's something else to encounter, to have their own experiences, and to listen to what others have experienced, and to reflect on these, and to draw insights from these, and then to be able to make a contribution that others have. On clay, there are many people who have spoken about the relational abandonment. What is this contributing? What new thing is it contributing to the debate? That's the question you're going to ask. What new are you bringing on the table? What new? What is it that you're adding to the discussion? That's what I'm really saying here. Reflective learning. As you interact with others, as you look at your own experience, as you reflect upon these to get insights that others have not discovered, and then it causes you to be authentic and to make an authentic contribution to the debate. And I think this is one of the assets that Dr. Morian has brought in this book. And that's why I say it's creative. It is not just the regurgitation of other people's idea. It's not just a repackaging of what you have heard before. This is original. This is authentic, and there's integrity here. And I think I really want to commend him for that marvelous piece that he has put together. And so you will find here insights that you have not seen anywhere else. And somebody says that reading books is like talking to great minds, and you'll be wiser for it. I want to encourage every one of you to read this. There's a depth of information that you will see nowhere else. And it is not just theoretical, it is practical, and it really touches you exactly where it needs to be touched. And lastly, maybe I can just say this. This is for St. Lucia. I remember listening to, well, at least just using on some statistics in St. Lucia, on family issues in St. Lucia, and I learned for the very first time. I don't know how authentic it is, but I believe that the material is coming from the Secretariat, from the CARICOM Secretariat, so I believe it is credible. And they are saying that 86% of children in St. Lucia are born out of wedlock. Just only 40% are what we call legitimate. And to a large extent, to a large extent, many of these children, this 86%, they live in an unstable family. Another way of saying it is that the person who fathered them is not with the mother. And if you have 86% of that in St. Lucia, you really have a big issue. And I believe that this is one of the answers to the problem that we have in St. Lucia. Bravo, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard a lot. We have. And all of the information presented here is factual, it's their personal reflection on the book. And if this doesn't make you want to write, I don't know what else to make you want to write. But in case you're still indecisive, I'd like to call on Mr. Ezra after. So mellow your hearts a little bit with some special music.
my turn to ask that I follow the one established. I would like to make my contribution by reading the reviews of 3 persons from Unclaimed, and then to add my perspective on behalf of NAFLIC, that is the Council of Family Life Leaders, who's been working very closely with Pastor Morian. But first I will begin with the reviews from the book. I will start by reading the one from Dr. Cook Thomas, British Union Conference Evangelism, Personal Ministries, Mission and Sabbath School Director. He says, in this book, Dr. Dolston Morian bears his soul, emotions, and struggles. He is very real and strips the facade that sometimes masks our lives as people and leaders who are public spectacles. His story will resonate with many who have had and are still struggling at the unclaimed. It's a book of tragedy and persevering faith, a journey that speaks of grace in spite of failure. This is a breakthrough volume, a must-read. Then, Dr. Clement Henry, Manager, Citizen Security Strengthening Program within the Ministry of Public Security of the Government of Guyana, says, truly a masterpiece, and you've heard that word, a compelling and inspiring reflective documentation of the psychological effects of feeling excluded and the path to building resilience, human connectivity, and embrace. Dr. Morian's book offers the skills for people to thrive despite experiences of exclusion and teaches us the necessity to develop more integrated interactions in our homes, schools, churches, and communities. And finally, from Howard Simmons, pastor, counselor, family life educator, poet, and author of excellent preaching, The 5 P's Approach. He says, this book is a creative and compelling composition that reveals the excruciating pain that results from being unclaimed or rejected. The author skillfully utilizes his personal experiences and selected characters of the Bible to weave a profound tapestry of family, ministries, and hidden possibilities and climaxes in the life and ministry of Jesus. Unclaimed is a powerful tool that is destined to bring liberation to those who dare to embrace its principles. And now, from our perspective, the very special people in the life of Dr. Morian, I would like you to take a stand so that you will see those people who have been working very closely with him, members of NAFLIC in the congregation. Would you stand, please? And I think there's some on the outside with the registration. Thank you very much. Indeed, NAFLIC members, we saw it coming on day. I mean, we've had to be blind not to see. What with the countless times we sat with Pastor Morian at the helm of the NAFLIC table. Under your leadership, Dr. Morian, and under your leadership and guidance, we strategized and organized and committed to making family very strong. Yes, we saw the coming of Unclaimed in the way you devoured those enriching, uplifting, and empowering books, which at every sitting you recommended to us for the reading. We saw Unclaimed in your power-packed and oftentimes personalized presentations, especially at the couple seminars. So many people were there when my husband and I were coming in, we were remarking those who have been to the family life seminars, and they're following you. That's because of the greatness of your work. Also, listening to the radio programs and so on, churches like Dr. We said, We saw it also in the way you kept your audience on the edge of their seats with your deep-reaching and thought-provoking expositions. So we knew that it was just a matter of time until you would have chronicled those inspiring messages into this powerful book. As I read through your up-close and personal journey, as well as the documented stories of others captured in this dynamic piece of writing, my thoughts went immediately to individuals, friends, and families who have had or are having personal struggles similar to what we described. And some of them are unresolved, and that has been for decades. Issues which have been eaten away at the heart and soul of their being with no apparent end in sight. I kept saying to myself as I read, I need to get a copy of Unclaimed to those folks. So I have a list of people in my mind that I must read that book because the message is so real. I know it will bring a new awakening and possibly bring forgiveness, healing, and reconciliation to those people. Your story and the others referenced in Unclaimed have reminded me or taught me some of the following. Never put a limit on anyone's potential. Be patient with others. Everyone is fighting a battle. Hold on tightly to Jesus through all your situations. It taught me that one should never give up because God will make a way where there seems to be no way. That it is not how you started your journey, but how you finish. In your journey on planet Earth, you must have endurance, grit, determination, and fortitude to keep on going when the going gets tough. There is the capacity for greatness in each one of us, but we need to submit to the will of the Almighty and allow Him to release that anointing on us for His glory. And there's so much more. But I know you've been sitting a long time and you want to hear the rest of what has to happen. So congratulations, my friend, our friend. The NAFI team salutes you, and we know you've done excellently, and we look forward to more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Coronel, and thank you to each of our peer review presenters. Let's give them another round. Now, I know that you've heard it all, but I would just like to reiterate just a few things. Well, first I'll give you a little story. In coming here, I have a nephew, and he's very inquisitive, and he wanted to know where I was going. So I said I'm going to a book launch. Of course, he doesn't know what it is. So I told him the name of the book, Unclaimed. And he said, Unclaimed, like he doesn't have an owner. And just listening to the reviews here, it really made me realize that this is technically how people who are unclaimed feel. And it is a basic human need for us to feel belong. And if you study Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one of the basic needs is to feel a sense of belonging. And this book, written by Dr. Pastor Dolston Morian, like somebody said, is really multidimensional in that it is a reflection of his work, of his experience more or less, and it is also a reflection of your experiences. And this is a quote that I had to learn at Teachers College because we had to learn so much. A quote by John Dewey, and it says, we don't learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experiences. So thank you, Pastor Morian, for using your experience to teach us how to live a clean life. All right, at this time we'll be moving on to that's the most important part, basically, of the program. And just like we had a special introduction of a special person, we'll also have a special introduction of a special person. And this introduction is going to be done by Miss Janet Alfred. Is she here? Okay, by Miss Janet Alfred. Let's welcome again.
Allow me to adopt the protocols that have been established. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I have been given the esteemed honor to present to you our featured writer. He is from the land of many waters. Anyone know where that is? All right. And although he is from that big land, we, the sons and daughters of St. Lucia, have adopted him. And so it is our privilege to be given the opportunity to host his first book launch. Most of you know him as a well-beloved pastor, a prolific speaker, and for those of you who've heard him, you know that he's a man of many words. And he loves his words. And like one of my favorite writers, L. Montgomery, says, you know, we use big words to translate big ideas. So you know that he is someone of big ideas. And we are privileged to have some of those ideas placed into his book this afternoon. He is also a lover of life. If you know our writer, you know he loves to laugh, and he has this booming laugh that fills up the entire room. He is also a family life enthusiast, and he loves to spend time with family. We're always having some family activity by his home, or sometimes people say, John, you know, we need to organize something. Maybe let's go to the beach this weekend or something. It has to, you know, sometimes it's initiated by him. So he's a lover of family and a lover of things related to relationship, family life relationship. Always wanted to know mine. He has, of course, proven himself to be a scholar, has studied at Caribbean Union College, currently University of the Southern Caribbean, where he obtained his bachelor in theology and later his master with an emphasis in family life. He is also a recent graduate of Andrews University with a doctor in ministry in evangelism. And of course, he didn't want me to laud his accomplishments, but I must let you know that he is very accomplished. And he takes time to engage himself in various activities where he could impact positive change. To me, he is a motivator, an inspiring speaker, and a thought provoker. We will oftentimes be engaged in discussions, and I love a good debate. And so at home, when he comes by or when we go by, there's always this discussion, and he initiates a lot of things. Always provokes me, and just, being the devil advocate, just to see what my thoughts are. So he is a thought provoker, and I'm sure you would see this in his work. He, of course, is an uncle and a dear friend. I'm extremely proud of his accomplishments this afternoon. Our author believes that we must live life to the fullest and force the world to feel our impact. You have to think big, John. Don't just stop at thinking big, make it happen, he would say to me. And so writing this book was one of his dreams. And I know it has been a long time coming, and I'm happy that it has become a reality. God has allowed your book to be published now, for this is the appointed time, the right time, and as Dr. Alfred said earlier, we see that in St. Lucia there is a need for the addressing of issues such as this. So this is a well-timed book. This book is a combination of his academic knowledge, his personal experiences, and his spiritual experiences. Virginia Woolf says that the secret of a good writer's soul is that every experience of his life, quality of his mind, is written in his words. And this is what you would see in this book. And that is why it's authentic experience, worthy read, and it's going to be a life-changing experience. I know this will be exciting because the person who writes it is exciting, thought-provoking. He is that. Insightful, educating. It's going to be an educating experience, spiritually uplifting experience, and very impactful. Walt Disney, as you know, he says that there is more treasures in books than in all the pirates lose on a treasure island. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the treasure chest. But this book is one of the first of his many treasures. I present to you the author, our pastor, the scholar, my uncle, Dr. Dolston Morian.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Come on over here, Johnny. Come on, please. Let me love you like I would have wanted to love my daughter. I was just, before I asked permission to adopt the protocol, I was just telling God to make sure that what's happened to me while writing this book does not happen to me while presenting thoughts about the book. Let me begin by saying in my speech, Janik is an amazing woman. And I want to thank you, Janik, for your warm and gusty introduction. You're an amazing person. And I have known this fact all my life, knowing you. And I appreciate you dearly. Good afternoon to everyone, and my admirable and noble and excellent brothers and sisters. I am very humbled at the opportunity of being here. I never thought that I would have been affected the way I have been affected this afternoon. I'm amazed to see all of you special people at this official launching of my book, Unclaimed. And somebody asked me, but there is no such word as unclaimed. And I remember several years ago when I was doing a master's program, I was writing on a very funny topic that nobody wanted to write on. Not because I wanted to pass judgment, but because I wanted to have a reasonable inquiry on the subject of homosexuality. And my colleagues laughed at me because then the conversation was not a ready conversation. And then when it dawned on the horizon that it was a big conversation, some of them wanted to read what I wrote. And I told them, not until you pay me $200 US. So then you'll be able to see. And one of my friends, he said to me, certain words that you use in that research, you shouldn't use them. They are too many big words, and they don't have meaning. So I said to him, I'm beginning to get qualified where I can construct a word. Yeah. So unclaimed is my personal construction. And that's how words get into the dictionary. You know, and I'm hoping that somebody will see it sufficiently and, log it in the dictionary. Well, the story about relational abandonment, and so your presence on this occasion has transformed the space in this room and made it electric. As I reflect on my relationship with you over the years, months and weeks, I feel deeply appreciated to all of you for coming to share this moment with me. All through the years, you have been a part of my amazing ministry journey. You have made exceptional deposits of love and kindness in the various accounts of my life. I am eternally grateful to you. I owe you a debt I will never be able to repay. And with all that has been said about the book, based on personal review and review from reviews, I thought I would just get up and say to you, it's $46 with my signature for the book. And then you begin to buy. But, you know, it's not about the cost of the book. It's about my experience with you as a people. So I'd like to single out some very special persons. Some of them probably are not here. I'd like to single out people like Ezra Joseph. I was pastoring in the Plateau Church, and one day he came to me and he said, you should write. Just like that. And I thought to myself, what's in Ezra's head? And, you know, my grandmother taught me something. She said, if one person called you a fool, then you don't have to worry about that person. It's just one person. But if 2, 3, 5, 7, 10 people begin calling you a fool, then you need to call in the psychiatric services, because everybody can't be wrong. And I begin discovering that after Ezra, people like Dr. Lewis, Mrs. Marlene Charles, Milton Henry, who probably is not here, all of these people begin to tell me things about the ability to write. And of course, I would be remiss not to mention the amazing and honorable members of NAFLIC, a group of smart, intelligent, and daring professionals who saw and believed in the good they saw in me. They constantly assured me that God had gifted me with a captivating speaking ability and a rare passion for family life ministry. Yes, Dr. Lewis, my research, though under the broad heading of church growth and evangelism, my inquiry and research has to do with how do you magnetize the middle and upper class families to the gospel of God. I did that because I find it was a very scarce area, you know, and my understanding of the inclusiveness of the gospel does not allow me to be comfortable with what my church does and what other churches do. There is a certain kind of spiritual dismissiveness that we unintentionally administer to the rich, as if they're too rich to be a part of the gospel. But my understanding of the gospel does not allow me to see that, because the cross brings all of us to a ground that is level. The same grace that saves me, in spite of the title, is the same grace that saves the same man who is in the gutter and calls upon God. So except maybe for financial matters or financial capability, I don't see any difference between myself and the other man or the other woman. You know, strip all of those things apart and you discover that all of us, we have one fundamental need, the need for love, the need for fellowship. So they saw the good in me, and I became aware of the fact that writing this book on claim was going to be a defining moment for me and for my friends and particularly my family. So I became gripped with the insatiable desire to want more of what God wanted for me. And so today's event is simply unbelievable, but marvelous in my eyes. All of you are simply subplots of the mega narrative of my life here in St. Lucia. You have helped to paintbrush my life with some of the most electric colors ever. And I am eternally grateful to you. I want to confess that I have never read the book. I only wrote it. And one of the things that I have done is, because I did not want the book to do me again what it did to me in writing, I thought that if I had other people comment on it, it would sound like if, you know, I'm reading. I've read the book, you know, because I think what I would have encountered would have been much more clearly expressed by those who were given the task of commenting on it. So I never really read the book again after writing the book. I would refer to it every now and then to remind myself that you wrote a book, you know. But it was really a painful journey. There were times when I got very quiet while writing because I never knew that there was so much in me that I needed to confront about me. You know, it's easy to confront other people, but when you are called to confront, to take a hard and honest look at yourself, it's a little more confrontational, it's a little more challenging. And I had to ask God to give me the courage and the strength to be able to take a hard look at myself. And so, like it was rightly said, in this book, I have made myself very vulnerable. And one of the reasons why I did that is because when you begin to grow in years, you begin to get to some interesting crossroads in life. And one of those contemplations of mine as I wrote the book, as I thought of writing the book, was that how do you want to be remembered when you're gone? Not that I was thinking of death, you know, but what are you going to be leaving behind for the generation to come? How would you like them to know you? And I thought that writing this book was a good opportunity for me to leave statements about myself behind. And I must tell you again that it was a very painful journey for me. There were times when my wife would come down the step and she would see me in my quiet contemplations. And what she did not know was just, I heard her footsteps coming down the stairs, and I drew my rag and wiped my eyes and puffed up my face like if everything was all right. And in truth and in fact, it was simply a weeping moment as I confronted myself and some of the things that relational dismissiveness has done to me. One of my cousins, when I asked him to write a review of the book, he kept putting it off. And then finally he asked me, do you really want the world to read this book? In North America, you will have a crisis. People, especially men. You want to say all of these things about your father? And I said, yes. I'm prepared to take that risk. Because I've never seen people write things like these and be honest with the world. And it's not a critique of my father. My father was a great guy. Reflecting on his experience with my mom, I conclude that both of them were great people that just had their priorities mixed up, and they were not probably exposed to some of the things that we are now exposed to, because we're discovering, by way of research, especially with matters related to divorce, and are mindful that there are broken people all around me, we are discovering that 76% of the people who go to the divorce court really were not qualified to go there. They had more going for them than that which was not going for them. What do I mean by that? It's like if it took 10 things to be successful in a marriage, they had 7 and they missed 3. And what they did, like my mom and my dad, not literally, they fought over the 3 that they did not have and did not celebrate the 7 that they had. So they had more going for them. They were not qualified to go there. They just were not qualified. And so these are some of the reflections that came to my mind as I documented the story. And so this is not daddy bashing. It's not daddy bashing at all. It's more my honest account of what happened and how I viewed it and how I saw it. There are 2 other things that I'd like to do, because I just want to give you a brief presentation of how this book is, what it is all about, how did it emerge, what was the catalyst for the whole storytelling. And, but I just want to introduce to you that while I was writing the book, I got somewhat depressed at one time. And so I put the pen down on the writing of the book and I said to myself, let me do something new. And in that moment it crossed my mind, why not try writing a song? So I wrote a song. I literally wrote a song. And before I give you the details of the book, I want you to hear the song. Not that I'm going to sing it. There are a few people here who will sing the song so that you can hear it. It's called Jesus, Dearest Family Friend. So I would like to invite Eric Hutchinson and his wife, Deanna Hutchinson, and my wife, and the others to embrace the podium at this time and sing for you a song that I wrote. So, I just didn't write a book, I also wrote a song. And while they're coming, I would like to indicate to you that I also have been able, under the help of the young man who was able to have to go to another program, I have a guy by the name of Kenty Ramdat. He developed a webpage for me, and I'd like to show you some of the things at the end of the presentation of the book, what the webpage looks like and what you can get from the webpage, because I intend to make this an ongoing conversation, and through my webpage, I'm going to be talking to you and I'm going to be soliciting your subscription to my webpage so that we can become a relational family, because this is a new movement and it's called relational reflection as we move along in life. So I think they're ready to sing the song. Well, I would take it to mean.
I would take it to mean that the round of applause is an indication that I did a good job with the song and writing the song. You know, I never really listened to the song until today. And for the first time, I noticed my wife has become engaged in singing too. And it's lovely, it's marvelous in my eyes, really marvelous in my eyes. All right, let's talk a little about the book very quickly in terms of how it is composed. I'd like to lend to Denny to help me in the computer, if you could just beam it on. The first question or concern that brought the thought of writing the book produces the emergence of the idea. In other words, what the book is about. My main reason for writing this volume evolved out of the deep concern related to the subject of relationship, and I've grown to discover more and more I'm becoming more and more concerned and convinced that most people don't really need medicine, they need relationship. Research has now shown very clearly that most of our sickness, if not all of our sickness, are related to relationships. And there are a number of degenerate and other kinds of diseases and sicknesses that afflict us. And at the bottom of it all, it's either those of us who are well or sufficiently well. We have sufficiently good relationships. And those of us who are sick, we need to check up again on our relationship. It was a wise man, Solomon, that said, laughter works like a medicine. If you're laughing alone, it's not bad. But if you're laughing at yourself all alone, it's really bad. You know? And the wise man Solomon also said, two is better than one. You know? If one falls, he has the honor to pick him up. But woe be unto the man when he falls, he had no one around to pick him up. So the essence of life at the heart of living is really relationship. And one claim is particularly a conversation about relational dismissiveness, Pastor Alfred. It bloomed forth from observation I've been making throughout my years of administering care to married couples and family members about the emotional brokenness and suffering that is associated with relational abandonment. So, from a catalog of entries, from my personal reflection as a victim of family desertion, and a populated list developed through encounters with my clients who came seeking helpful intervention, for I don't classify myself as a counselor. I provide helpful or healthy intervention. And I kind of gathered that idea, Dr. Lewis, from my observation of men when their significant others tell them that they need to see a counselor. The first thing that comes to the man's mind is that nothing is wrong with my mind. And that thought of having to see a counselor only creates more distance between the man and his special significant other. So one day it dawned in my mind when this female client came into my office to seek help for a relationship with her significant other. She was convinced that the man needed counseling. But she said, Pastor, the man will not come to counseling. And it dawned on my mind that maybe she is stroking him badly. So I said to her, don't tell the man he needs counseling. Tell him he needs healthy intervention. That rubs off more smooth on him. The first thing is he went home and did what I told her, and the next week the man showed up. And when he showed up in the office, Dr. Lewis, he said to me, I came for a healthy intervention. So over the years, I became more aware of this acute problem of relationship. What these situations did to me was that I found myself musing over what looked like a prevailing predisposition in our humanity. And so on several occasions I tried dismissing myself from contemplation, only to find myself gripped again by the quest to find defining answers to the questions associated with actions and attitudes in humans that are relationally dismissive. So, the many marital terminations, friendships that came to an abrupt end, the ending of family, that ended in family feuds, the struggle, the sharp shoulder indifferent mentality that widens the relational abyss, causing us to become antagonistic strangers rather than being intimate allies. The negative relational factors that destroy the most sacred gift of relational bonding is what epitomizes the concept unclaimed. So this volume is draped with concerns about relational marginalization and the impact on interaction at the divine and human level. So I still seem not to be getting some help from my computer. It's a strange computer, it's a Mac computer. If you don't know how to use it, it could give you some trouble. So basically that's what probed the idea. And as I reflected on my own experience, I then began discovering that life can be lived more meaningfully when people become intentional and deliberate about having good relationships. And while I speak to you, I must confess that I'm not an expert on it. I still struggle with my relationship. And I struggle with my relationship not because my wife is a bad woman. I struggle with relationship, with this amount of relationship, because it would seem as though we are products of our past experiences. Our encounter with people who loved us, used us, abused us, marginalized us, criticized us, pulled us down. We come to life with all those baggages. And they impact the way we relate one to another. And it will take a certain measure of honesty to be able to confront these realities. Because my wife would tell me, Dolston, except you get to the point where you own and accept that you have a problem, you will not be able to have the problem solved. And so I have come to accept and own my relational challenges, those scars that affect the way how I relate to people and how people relate to me. It's a part of our humanity. And what we have done over the years is that we have rolled all of these things with clothes. Because beneath the coverings of our lives, deep in the coverings of our souls, there are these written scars that are there. And we act out of them. We live out of them, except for the transforming power of God that is able to reconcile those scars in our lives. And so, I remember this story, bear with me. Not so long ago I was in Guyana, and I wanted to test the power of relationship. So I went to this church. I was invited to talk about anything on family. So I got into the church, and I was sitting there together with my wife and some others who were traveling with me to a place called Quarantine. That would be about 60 miles away from the airport to where I live, and then 20 miles to another section that ends where I live, and another 15 miles to the place where the church is. Alright? So when I got into the church, I was getting myself ready for the presentation, and I saw this mother and this little boy coming into the church. And from his facial appearance, I knew he was not going to have a good church day. And I vowed in that moment that he's not going to have that kind of church. He's going to have a good church. I'm going to change that around. So I decided to test what I felt about relationship. So after his mother had placed him to sit in this righteously good position, where holiness is characterized by stillness and a folded arm in readiness to listen to the gospel, that's how you're going to have joy in church. And I thought that no, that is religious reprimand rather than religious joy. And I thought I'm going to give this guy a taste of what the cross is. So, for whatever reason, his mother left him for a while, and I took up my camera. my booming Canon camera. And I touched him on the shoulder and I said, look at me. So the little boy turned around and I said, give me your best smile. And he smiled this big smile and then I began to take out pictures of him. And the guy was smiling all his life. You know? And then when I got into my presentations, I called him up, you know, to make a point as a little boy. What do you think of that point? And I also engaged in helping me to do demonstrations, you know. I was teaching them the 3 principles of how to train a child. You know, the first principle is, I do, you watch. I do, you watch. I do, you watch. And then the second principle is, we do together. We do together. We do together. And the last one is, you do and I watch. You know? So we were making up this bed and we got to the point where we do together. And, you know, he was doing the stuff. And for the first time in that little boy's life, the entire church was now focused on him. That was deliberate on my part. Everybody was watching him. Everybody was cheering him up. And everything else happened to him. At the end of the day, at the end of one of my presentations, I asked him, what is it that you need to complete your what was the Pathfinder, your adventurous uniform? He said, I don't have a shoe. I said, I'll get you a shoe. This is ministry by shoe. And he picked up a little more. He picked up a little more. FamilyBliss.com. He picked up a little more. And, you know, at the end of the day, I had some sterling pounds in my pocket because I'd just come back from England from a visit. And it didn't matter to me how much money, how much pounds was in my pocket. I gave it to him, you know, and he brightened up a little more, you know. And he was just living from the church to where we live. It was just about half a minute walk. He jumped into my vehicle, you know, and I gladly drove him home. You know, and when I got to his gate, I think I even took my horn so to indicate to everyone that the king had just arrived. You know, got out of the car, and then he broke my heart. As I turned around to drive away, he stood on the balcony, and he was just waving his hand, as if I've never had a day like that. Thank God that you came by. And you know, I said to myself, that is what I would have wanted if I were in church. And since they didn't give it to me in church back then, I vowed, as best as I can, that is what I'm going to give children when they come to church. So that's the story of Clive. I'm now preparing to buy him a ticket to go to Barbados in a camp. So what's the big question in the book? Or what is the question the book seeks to answer? The book is projected to address 3 important concerns, or 4. Why do we as humans, why is it that we are so hardwired to love and to be intimate and to receive relational love? Why is it that we eventually turn on each other, hurt each other, and finally turn away from each other? This seeming proclivity that dogs our path and eludes us, because the Apostle Paul says in our minds, we know what to do. God has informed us of how to do it, but there is a law in our members that contradicts what we see in our minds. And so this contradiction throws us off relational balance and brings us into conflict between what we intelligently know and want as against what we are unable to execute. And so I've developed a mantra that a good relationship don't just fall out of the sky. A good relationship is something that you must go after intentionally and deliberately. It's like if you're going to grow a tree, you don't just plant the tree and leave it there. You have to mulch up the soil, aerate the soil. You have, after planting it, you have to water it. You have to spray it sometimes for pesticides and insecticides. You know, you got to make sure that it is in a protective zone. And those things don't just fall out of the sky and be. You have to become intentional, and you've got to get up and do it. It's like you go to the doctor and you are given a prescription for some tablets to drink for a particular condition that you have. The tablet is not going to magically jump from the pharmacy and get into your stomach and spread its impact all around your soul to bring about healing. No, you've got to become intentional and deliberate about swallowing it. So I can tell you all I can about relationships here. If we don't become intentional and deliberate about doing it, we're still going to be relationally sick. Alright? So the book is intended to answer that question. And an associate question, a question that is also associated with that is, why do we become more relationally sensitive and hostile to our significant others rather than being prone towards genuine intimacy? Why is it that happens to us? Why do people push and pull away from each other so easily? Why are we so checkered with encounters that interferes with the nurturance of intimacy in our lives? Why is it eludes us so much? There have been some times when, in my own experience with my wife, she comes to me and she says to me, Dolston, that has not been very nice. What you just said there is not very nice. You know? But the dismissive ability, the proclivity in me, does not allow me to instantaneously accept and carry out a quick introspection and be honest with myself that my actions really were not relational in that moment. And then after some somber moments, I get to a point where I need to re-embrace that moment. And I come to confession and I say, yeah, I'm sorry. But the dismissiveness in us does not allow us to readily say sorry. We want to find a reason for our badness, so we can hold on to our relational badness. But the truth is, there is a direct relationship between our behavior and our minds. Your mind is going to constantly tell you that that's not the right thing to do. So I remember several years ago when I was pastoring in a place called Plateau, I deliberately kept the church board late. It ended about 11 o'clock. I promise I'll never do that again in my life. But there was a reason, an ugly reason why I did that. Because before I left for the church board, I had done some terrible things to my wife. I'd said some things that were not very nice to her in my flesh. Not understanding the power of relationship. I said something to her that was not nice. And so I deliberately kept the church board late with the understanding that by the time I get home, she will be fast asleep. And I don't have to deal with it. You know? So when I got home, you know, she had not moved the plate with the food. It was still on the, you know, the eating table. What I did, I picked up the spoon, knocked the plate around the sides, and made some noise as if I'm eating the food. And then when I was satisfied that, you know, she would accept that the food was eaten, I covered it down and placed it in the refrigerator and left it there. And then I got into bed. When I got into bed, I slipped into bed as quietly and undisturbingly as I could have done. And I tried to sleep. But you know, there was a noisy silence in the room that told me somebody is really not asleep. And my grandmother taught me a little thing. She said to me, whenever you have trouble in your mind and you cannot sleep, repeat the 23rd Psalm over and over and over and over again. And beloved, the more I repeated the 23rd Psalm, the more I stayed awake. Until I felt a finger punching me in the side. And I pretended again that I was asleep. And I said, I'm sleeping. You know? And then my wife came wide awake and she said to me, Dolston, there is something that we need to settle, and we're not sleeping until we settle it. That's the kind of woman I'm married to. And I love her dearly, because I did not live for those kinds of attitudes I'll be lost. Say amen, I just told you the truth. You know? And the thing about it is that after a while, your conscience kicks in and tells you, you can't do that. Get real. So I warmed up myself and said, okay, let's talk. And we got through the talking. And after we were done sleeping and talking, you would be amazed who was sleeping and who was snoring after that. You know? So, this dismissive behavior, This shock-shoal attitude, this indifference, it dogs us. The best of us can talk about how many times we have missed the relational mark, with those who are significant to us. So from my own account, with experiences of childhood neglect, those carefully selected stories from the experiences of my client, real and some of them fictional, according to the book, I fabricated at least 2 stories in the book to present the parable of relationship, and reflections on narratives from the sacred literature. The platform was set for the telling dialogue about relational fallouts. They help to distill the meaning of that underpins the concept of unclaimed, engraved in the pages of this project. Unclaimed portray how we live our lives between shades and shadows of relational rejection that are made indelible marks on the canvas of our personal encounters with persons who loved us, used us, rejected us, abused us, marginalized us, and finally abandoned us to the cold tundra of loneliness with no hope. I must confess, it was a painful process of reflection that often brought me into personal confrontation with lingering emotional scars resident in my soul. And so, the outline of the book is pretty interesting. And Mrs. Monrose did a very wonderful job of presenting the outline, the structure in a very nice way. But there are 2 young ladies here who I've grown to adore very well. In chapter 2, having given my story in chapter 1, chapter 2, I sought to reflect on some of the experiences of my client, people I met in my life, and stories about abandonment. And so, in a brief moment of reading, I'd like to call Pearl Conibert and Eden Severin to read for me just a few snippets of the stories, at least 1 or 2 of them, that is documented, so that you can get a sense of what kind of book you're going to be purchasing this afternoon or securing this afternoon.
Chapter 2 Stories. Story number 1. Scratch. A message of love on my daddy's new car.
This father had begun showing more interest and giving more attention to his car instead of to his son. He would become so engaged in keeping his ride looking good that he lost his desire to spend meaningful time with his son. Day by day, the little boy would try his childhood gimmick to gain the attention of his father. And when he could not take it any longer, the little boy took a stone and made a few scratches on the door of the car. In a maddening anger, the father retaliated by taking his son's hand and pounded it on another large stone with the stone used by the little boy to scratch his car. With the hand badly damaged, the little boy was rushed to the emergency unit of the hospital. An unfortunate procedure was done and administered, and in the process, 3 of the little boy's fingers were amputated, and he had to be hospitalized for a prolonged period.
During this time, conscience kicked in, and the father found the courage to pay his son a visit in the geriatric department of the hospital. Standing next to his bedside, in a state of speechlessness, the little boy broke the silence. With no bitterness, the little boy asked, "Hi, Daddy," raising his hand towards the father. "When will my fingers grow back?" The father's heart was punctured, and tears began falling from his face. He returned to the car and with a greater flow of tears and sobs, he began contemplating the gravity of his subhuman action. Then, something from within him moved him to the door of the car to give the scratch marks some attention. Then, like a clash of thunder, to his shock and amazement, he discovered that it was not a scratch, but a powerful childhood attention-getting device. On the door of the car was written the untainted confession of a child who was competing with a car for his father's love and affection. Daddy, I love you. This story is anonymous, but it is a classic case of what can happen to a person who is a victim of rejection. A profound statement of the results of what hiding from your own flesh can lead to unclean. Story number 2. The wallowing dancer called Diamond. For purpose of concealing her identity, the woman in this story will be referred to as Diamond. She is a pretty young lady with all her body contours in the right places, a spectacle to behold. Standing before a selection panel, she would be the easy choice for a beauty pageant lineup. She loved dancing so very often, Diamond would pay her ticket to the village parties, and very easily she would become the desire of the males. But for some strange reason that night, none of the fellows would invite her to the stage for a dancing number. All the other girls were doing their thing in the arms of their partners. But for the greater part of the night, she stood there alone in an isolated corner. Her fortunes of attracting a dancing partner began slipping away as the night wore on. Diamond's imaginary boyfriend was already romantically pacing the floor with another female tightly wrapped up in his arms. Her feeling of being excluded peaked to a boiling point, and she could no longer hold her emotions in check. She picked herself up, wrapped her arms around herself, and proceeded to the dancing floor as if in the arms of an imaginary partner. With deep hurts, she danced herself to her favorite love song as she uttered a groaning sound in the process. To all others, a very queer thing to do. And in that instance, she made herself a laughing stock, an object of ridicule and mockery. She became ugly in everyone's eyes. Lacking the power of self-control, she uncontrollably threw herself upon the floor and began to perform a wallowing in the mud-like kind of performance to showcase her brokenness and disappointment. She degraded herself to becoming a party annoyance. So, Diamond was physically lifted and thrown out of the party room, while disgraceful words loaded with scorn would hurl at her. Abandoned and left in the dead, cold of night, with tears in her eyes, Diamond, cut to the core, cried out in her agony, "Nobody loves me!" Stumbling like a drunken person, her figure is silhouetted like an elusive shadow in the dark. She took the long, lonely road to her home, loaded with feelings of rejection. Diamond is the embodiment of another case of what it really means to be unclean.
Story 3. Bright Eyes. The self-hurting dude. Still concealing identity, the person in this case is Bright Eyes. My first impression of him was that he was a guy with great possibilities, and that he gave some early indications that he was willing to follow in the path of encouragement I tried to provide. However, soon I began discovering that he was having all kinds of challenges in his life due to childhood neglect. And this provided the fuel for what Albie suggests as a reason for his maladaptive pathway.
He progressively became dissatisfied with everything and everyone until a quarrelsome attitude possessed him. He grew revengeful and unforgiving and began engaging in destructive habits that caused many to question his sanity. No amount of encouragement from relatives and friends seemed to be able to keep or put him back on track. His world only collapsed, and it became apparent to all that it was going to fall apart. Bright Eyes was another case of depression. Sadly, feeling of abandonment led him to adopt a new survival strategy of roadside begging, of alms accompanied by other self-harming activities. These self-harming behaviors were demonstrated because of a lack of rationality, linked with impulsiveness, excessive prowling, self-destroying habits, finding his food from garbage containers, the manipulation of others, and a myriad of other questionable practices that defy normality became his way of life. There are some of the signs of someone suffering potentially from the borderline personality disorder. According to Dolston, patients diagnosed with the fear of abandonment are prone to extreme irritability and fear. In a conversation with him, he intimated to me that he felt abandoned and uncared for by his father. Bright Eyes is another victim of unclaimed. Because his father lacked parental empathy and was incapable, unmindful, and unwanting of his presence.
Thank you.
So that's just a taste of what unclaimed can be, or what it can do. So the book is projected to answer those questions. And just trying to get this back. Of course, in the reviews, we got a clear sense of what others have said about the book. One young lady, when I advertised the book to her, in just a joking manner, she said to me, "What is the book about?" You know? And because I did not read the book, I couldn't answer readily. You know? What others have said about the book? It's interesting that the persons that gave the review today, you know, I was telling Pastor Alfred, I wish I was writing this book now. Because there's so many other flash of thoughts that came that I never thought about, you know. And that's a common denominator among all conclusions. They always think about things that nobody else is thinking about, you know. So it's amazing what is some of the commentary that was made about the book. And of course, listening to that again gave me a deeper appreciation for what this book is all about. You know, some of the thoughts I never really thought about them. So I thought it was important to expose my thoughts and reflections on the subject for honest review, with the hope that the book will have good voyage and will be well received in the global reading space. I'm particularly encouraged by Dr. Lionel's comment. He stated in the use when he gave his foreword, he stated, children who establish secure relationship with the significant others in their lives go on to navigate the world with much more skill and confidence than those who have not established such relationships. The former group learn better. We're talking about the benefits of relationships. When you're in a good relationship, he suggests that you learn better, you establish more stable and healthy relationships with others, you live longer, and are generally more successful in life than the latter. End of quote. However damaging early relationships might have been, with the experience of caregivers and other attachment figures, these are not the final arbiters or determinants of our destiny. Emanating from the field of neuroscience is a new confirmation of hope. It holds that the circuity of brain cells that sustain our embedded tendencies and subhuman and social habits can be changed. But we knew that a long time ago, because sacred literature told us that one of the ways that we can transform our behavior is first to begin it in our minds. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So, Unclaimed seeks to peel away the superficial covering of the subject and provide a real as possible reflection of the substantial discussion. The fourth point deals with how is the book constructed to capture the central idea. Well, I began with distilling the meaning of Unclaimed from my own personal encounter, chapter 1. Chapter 2, the use of storytelling that you just listened to with regards to the stories outlined there. And of course I did something on Jesus and a conversation about marriage related to divorce. Chapter 8, my mother's love in the daily grind of rejection. That was very powerful for me and very significant. And just in case the reader will begin to think that this is what it's all about, the narrative changes. So it moves from unclaimed to claim. And what I sought to do in that chapter finally is to indicate that no one is beyond relational reconnection. And so I told the story of my encounter among others, and I'll close with this one. I told the story of one of the encounters that I had in University of Southern Caribbean, then Caribbean Union College. I was supposed to be out of college, and I should have been in the field as a student colporteur. And for reasons that I still don't understand, I was not given the privilege, I was president of the club, to go to one of these other countries to do colporting to get my monies together so that I can go back to school. And so, all the others were gone, and I was the only one left with no hope. So I went to a garden called Pharaoh's Garden to pray and talk to God about what was happening. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was in great agony, wondering and hoping and praying and asking God big questions about who He is really. And then I saw a friend of mine coming down from the hill where the president's house was, or is still, where it still is. A guy by the name of Tony Mack, who is now president of the Tobago Mission of Seventh-day Adventists. And I called out to Tony because Tony and I were always praying. I paused because the Honorable Minister is signaling to me that he needs to make his exit. No, he says no. I thought that was bad reflection. Bad reflection. So I continue with the story. So Tony came into the garden, and I told him what had happened to me. And he threw his arms around me, and we wept together. We began crying together, as if he was feeling what I was going through. He was understanding the pain, and he wanted to share as a good friend. Well, not long after I was able to get a ticket, my wife, then my girlfriend, was able to orchestrate a ticket for me to get me to St. Lucia. I came and I spent 2 months, got myself a scholarship, and went back to school so that I continued my study. Several years advanced quickly. Several years after, myself and Tony were in a different place but in a garden setting. And we were reflecting on the past, our experiences together, our ministry journey, and all of that. And then I began telling him the story of the night we cried and prayed together in Pharaoh's Garden.
And quite surprisingly, he stood there, listened quietly, and said not one word until finally he broke the silence. And then he said to me, Dolston, I do not have any intelligent recollection of a story like that. I have no reasons to be on campus at 2 o'clock in the morning. I have no reasons to go to the president's house. I've never been there. So your recollection, I don't understand. And then I concluded, like others, that must have been a divine intervention. I must have been in the presence of an angel that day, and I felt clean that night. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this, among other things, speaks to my journey with this book. And I just want to end by saying, because somebody might be asking, who is this book for? I would like to say the book is for you. It's for every person that is relationally concerned, is concerned about their marriage and their friendship. It's for parents. It's for emotionally broken people. It's for every caregiver, every practitioner. It is for every church leader and pastor who wants to have a deeper understanding of relationship. They should secure their copy. Students of various disciplines of higher learning, of the helping fraternity, should secure a copy. And professionals at all levels, I'm convinced, they should have their copy too. Individuals who are struggling with relational dismissiveness should have a copy. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your patience. Thanks for allowing me to share with you this book that I would like to be remembered for. And yes, the other one is already on its way. It's called Emotional Scars. I Don't Want You to Put Me in a Cross Bag. Another story about myself. In the next 3 or 4 months, I'll be asking you to come again so that I can share with you that book.
Thank you, Pastor Morian. Now, I'm pretty sure at this time we have a very, very comprehensive knowledge of what this book entails. I'd also like to recognize the 2 young ladies who read it very eloquently and clearly. Very well, they remind me of myself in my younger days. Of course, like I said, we have a lot of good things going on here, and again, I want to thank you for your patience. I would just like to recognize those, well, Pastor Morian's family and friends who are watching live. My apologies for not doing this sooner, so thank you for tuning in. At this time, we'll have a musical rendition by Mr. and Mrs. Hutchinson. Are they close by? Let's welcome them, please. Actually a song in cat language, right? So you see we're looking at all types of relationships. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you have realized that we are coming down to the end of our program. And I would just like to say that gratitude in its entirety cannot really be expressed fully, especially to someone who has submitted a great book. So sometimes they have to ask for some support in saying thank you. And behind this great author that we have put up today, Pastor Dolston Morian, is his equally talented wife. Amen. And this evening she will be doing for us our vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We cherish your love and partnership for helping us. Thank you. We cherish your love and partnership for helping us have this special event today. We would like to express our gratitude to everyone for being here today. Your presence echoes congratulations and best wishes. I would like to single out a few persons. Sister Rosemary Daisy, Pastors Rigobert, Vitalis, and did I see Brother Pastor Vela? Okay, well, it's on my screen. We want to thank you for your support. Special thanks go out to Pastor Dr. Caius Alfred, Mrs. Mary Monrose, Dr. Robert Lewis, and Mrs. Madonna Florenville for providing those amazing reviews of Unclaimed. Our gratitude goes out to Dr. Genevieve Wendy Bailey Joseph for being an exceptional guest presenter, and Ms. Jenna Popo for walking us through the program line by line in a serious manner. The explosive reading done by Pearl Collibut and Eden Severin was fabulous. Are we not thankful for the musical renditions that warm the heart of everyone? A big thank thank you to the following. NAFID members for your support. Ms. Jenny Alfred for your kind words of introduction and exquisite decoration. And I wish it were complete so that you can see everything. But that's good. Mr. Kenty runs that, an efficient webmaster. Mr. Lance Octave for videographic service so that friends, relatives, and potential customers were able to view the event online. Mr. Len Alfred for capturing every moment in photographs. Mr. Dwayne Etienne for professional sound service. Last, but by no means least, praise and thanks to God, the Almighty, for helping Pastor Dr. Morian in conceptualizing, writing, planning, and executing this amazing event. Thanks again to everyone for coming. We cherish your love and partnership with us to have this special event. May the Lord shower his blessing upon each of you. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Morian. I'd like to borrow from the words of Pastor Caius Alfred when he said that when you come late in the program, you have less to say because everybody has already said what you wanted to see. And at this time, I'd like to say that everybody has already said what I wanted to say. But I would just like to join my voice with those who have gone before me. And, well, first of all, Sister Morian, I'd like to join my voice to yours. And I'm thanking you, the congregation, for allowing me to host this program here today. Thank you to Pastor Morian for the opportunity to be here. I did not regret leaving my exams, studying behind and being here. It was a great experience for me. Now in closing, I have just a few quotes. I know that you've heard a lot, and I just have a few quotes. The first one, difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. I'm making reference to one thing here. Secondly, greatness is not achieved by accident. Thirdly, make relationship a verb. Be intentional and be deliberate. Fourthly, Jesus is the ultimate claimer. Hold on to him. And finally, it's not how you start your journey, it's how you end it. Finish strong. Thank you. And of course, we like to end things the way that we started. So I'd like to call Mr. Frederick Jonge to close us in prayer, please.
Let us please stand for prayer. Let us pray. Our ever-loving and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for a very thoughtfully prepared, excellently organized, auspicious, and very impactful book launch. We thank you, Lord, for endowing Dr. Morian with the courage, the empowerment, the inspiration, strength, and wisdom to write on clay. We thank you for the great opportunity that we have today to celebrate his very great accomplishment. We also thank you, Lord, for the many blessings that we received this afternoon through the many activities which transpired. Lord, this book was written for your glory, written for the enrichment and strengthening of families. May this book provide hope, healing and restoration for families and couples who are relationally broken. May this book contribute very significantly to making families very strong. May it also impact families both locally and internationally. And now, unto whom who is able to keep us from falling and present us faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. To the only wise God and Savior be glory and majesty, dominion and power, both now and forever. Amen and amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are free to make your way out. The books are out on the table for signing and purchasing. Adam?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you will allow, the display is on the outside, and we want to give you a little token of love as you go. But you cannot use it on the compound. So you'll take it home with you, right? And you'll see how much in a little package, how much I love you. All right? And the cost of the book with my signature is $45. Only $45. Oh, well, the truth is, it's now been brought to my attention about the unveiling of the book. I thought that Dr. Joseph, Bailey Joseph, did a wonderful job about it, you know? So, thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. You've been a real awesome group of people. And you've only endeared yourself to me a little more today. Yes. God richly bless you.